Well, thank you again for joining and welcome to our presentation today on Hyphen Solutions. Our focus today is really going to be on estimating and why doing detailed estimates and takeoffs is strategically important, especially in today's volatile builder market. But before we do, I thought I'd share a little bit about Hyphen Solutions. 20 years ago, Hyphen had the idea to come out with a web-based, browser-based tool. We call it the network that would allow builders and their superintendents and construction managers, suppliers, trades, and in some cases manufacturers, all to be on a unified platform at the same time, communicating, and sometimes even with the customer, allowing all that communication to take place real time for the purpose of making sure that we were all in alignment about what needed to happen, what materials need to be delivered, what crews were available to actually build that home on that lot at the with the right timing. And so it's all about cycle time management. And especially in today's environment, we all know what missing a cycle time day means. It's between $300 and $500 for every day we go over that scheduled build time. And so that equates to a lot of dollars. And so the goal of Hyphen is if we get everybody on one network, then we're all going to be communicating real time about how that home should be built, what's needed to be built on that home, and what labor is available to build that home. We've had tremendous success with this network. We call it, by the way, Build Pro for builders. There's also a supplier side called Supply Pro. And we've had the fortunate ability to leverage 21 out of the top 26 builders and build partnerships with them and have them as customers today. Some of these names have changed on this screen through acquisition, but I think you can see that we still have 21 out of the top 26 public builders on our network. And this little chart just shows a little bit about our growth over the last 20 years. We've been able to, or fortunate enough to leverage currently 33% of the marketplace. So just about 1 out of 3 homes that's being built is being leveraged by a Hyphen tool, and we're proud of that. But I think the real reason there's been success is builders understand the need to be in a real-time collaboration online at the same time. We've also been very fortunate with our supplier partnerships. We are roughly at 15,000 suppliers to date. You'll recognize some of these suppliers, so you can begin to imagine what would your company look like if everybody was on the same piece of software communicating at the same time about deliverables. Can I get the air conditioning units there on time? Can I fulfill your build needs on time? Do I have the crews available to frame, to paint, to plumb? Do I have the materials available that you need? If I don't have the materials available, what are those substitute items? And being able to communicate that on a real-time basis. And so again, with our supply chain disruption that's happening now, with inflation, how much more critical is it to have everybody on that build cycle to be on the same platform communicating at the same time? I love this screen because it really demonstrates what happens in a world without Hyphen. So if you look on the left-hand side, you'll see an individual walking through a forest of trees. Well, that forest of trees is what the software industry has done to the builder market. Because software suppliers haven't thought about their impact of deploying their own trade portals and what that impact's done to the supplier side, we now force those suppliers to use 3, 5, sometimes 10 different pieces of the software, and we force them to log in, look at their POs, look at that builder cycle when they need to deliver materials, and then I got to log off that system and log on to another one, and there's no way to be efficient. So you as a builder are not getting the optimal attention, and you as the builder aren't really getting a true look at what's going to happen in your schedule, because there's no way that supplier can look at 10 different portals and figure that out. So at Hyphen, we eliminated all that software and created a product called Supply Pro. And Supply Pro, like on the right-hand side, is one source of the truth, regardless of what software a builder has deployed. That supplier can just use our product, and it will show them all POs, all crew needs, all fulfillment rates. It'll show them everything they need to know to respond to you, to the builder, on a single platform. We also paid attention to the builder side. And so on the builder side, this is a typical builder that we engage, right? They have, purchase orders that are happening, variance purchase orders, they have delays, they have, change orders, they have, workers' comp and lien releases to make sure the dates are in target and that lien releases are signed, all the things that are happening at builder's environment. But typically these are not integrated. They're not all on one platform. They're happening in various systems that the builder owns. So we believe, just like we did on the supply side, we believe that on the builder side, we could create a single source of the truth. And we've done that. So we have incorporated our own ERP to facilitate the builders that are building 50 homes to several thousand homes. And in that ERP, we've been able to integrate the vendor and all the vendors' data, all the back office financial needs, as well as all the field operation needs, which is the network. It's the Hyphen Build Pro, Supply Pro, and put it all on one system, one database from one company. And it's been tremendously well received. And this is a little bit of a better visual on, hey, if we're building the home, what is the downline back and forth, workflow that needs to take place in order for everybody to be on the same page at the same time about that build process. So today we're going to focus, like I said, a little bit on estimating, and Takeoff is going to be the primary target. But I'd also like to briefly do an overview of what we facilitate in our full ERP package that integrates with the Hyphen Build Pro, Supply Pro network. So the workflow that's in front of you, and I love this diagram because it gives you a picture of a typical builder and the process that they go through. And I'm going to go through this quickly, but typical builder will typically start off in determining, what are they going to build and where are they going to build it and why are they going to build it, right? So we're defining floor plans, but we're defining floor plans for a particular customer in a particular geographical location. So there's a lot that goes into why am I going to build this community or this development? Who am I trying to attract? What are my floor plans? What do my options need to look like? Or if you're building on your customer's lot, then there's a little different workflow, but you're still designing a plan. And then we want to come up with what is the cost of that plan. And again, Daryl Schinner has joined us today, and he's going to do an in-depth presentation on the estimating and takeoff features that help us determine the cost of that development, the cost of that project, cost of those homes. But every builder goes through some sort of estimate, and they determine, and in this case, what you see on your screen is one lot, one plan, and the cost of building that one plan on that lot. And so I have all the activities that I need to perform in order to build that home. I have all the subsequent activities that I need, and I have all the trades and suppliers that are going to be performing the work and or providing materials to build that home and their dollar amounts to do so. And so how did we get there? Well, we used our estimating system if you're using Hyphen. And our estimating system tracks things in a couple different ways. One is lump sum. So things like plumbing, mechanical, those type of things are typically, lump sum items. But a lot of builders, especially in this market, want to control their material items. So they do takeoffs. And you can do takeoffs several different ways. You can also see that up in the top toolbar, I have the ability to import and export items. This becomes very handy and very appropriate in today's market, where I don't want to just send out purchase orders without going out one more time, maybe a week before, maybe a couple days before I issue purchase orders, just to make sure none of my lumber prices have changed. I want to quickly go out to my supplier, get updated lumber prices, and bring them back in. But more importantly, how did these lumber items get in here? How did I know that I needed this type of lumber in this quantity? Well, again, we're going to get into estimating of how did we do a takeoff to determine this bill of material. For now, I'm just going to move on and get into sales. So we've determined our cost. Now we want to determine our sales. And this is one of my favorite parts of Hyphen, is the sales side. Because in the sales side, we're determining our profitability. We know our cost. We know what products we're going to build. We've done a great job of estimating and taking off. We've done a great job of bid solicitation. Now I need to look at that cost and determine what can I sell those homes for. Today's market, we still have a lot of flexibility in driving and proposing what we believe the sales, the sale of that home should be. And this is what we believe the market can bear. And other times, maybe we can't quite make the margins we can make today, but we're going to drive this revenue side. So I put in the sales prices based on what I believe the market can bear, and it will back calculate my profit. It'll back calculate my margin. It'll back calculate my markup. Or you could say, hey, I know that I need to make a certain margin regardless of cost in order to be sustainable. So you can put margins in and it will forward calculate your proposed selling prices. But the reason I like our sales system is because we can do forecasting. And this is very appropriate today. And I always pick on lumber. So up here on framing material, I am forecasting in January, February, and March that I'm going to see an increase in my lumber prices of 5%. So you can determine month by month, okay, up or down, where you believe your prices are going to be. This allows you to anticipate those price changes. Now I'll bring those anticipated or forecast sales, anticipated or forecast cost increases or decreases back into my modeling. Now I can start to model where I think I need to adjust my sales prices based on those cost changes to maintain my margin and my profit. I've never seen this flexibility in an ERP. I think it's just, again, Hyphen's heart for trying to provide the right tools for the builder market. So now we've established our sales prices, and typical builder will desire to one more time make sure their budgets, their trades, their suppliers, everything's in place before we push out this home available for sale to our sales system. So I'm looking at, in this case, the cedar. I may want to drill down on the cedar plan and again, see all the activities that need to take place to build that home. Make sure on the right-hand side that all my trades and suppliers, to the best of my ability that I know, are set, and the cost of them providing that material or services to build that home. So it's a great way to look at that budget one more time. I am now satisfied, and so now I'm going to move into our sales system. So in the sales system, we do offer a full CRM. I'm not going to dive into that part today, but I will dive into the visualization of being able to track leads, why we got that lead, where we got that lead, what time frame they're considering in purchasing a home, maybe the demographics of that particular prospect, and then walk them through the actual visualization of selecting, maybe it's just they're selecting plans. They could be selecting lots and plans or plans and lots. And again, you can see that the UI, the user interface of this screen, is very, very intuitive. And it allows you with that prospect to walk them through the visualization of selecting a home and a lot. Once they pick a plan, they want to see something about that plan. And you may have a floor plan here, okay? These pictures can be uploaded by you. All this imagery can be uploaded by you. You might show them the standard kitchen, standard master bath that comes with that plan. Again, it's all up to you what you want to display. And it's the same thing with options, whether it's a structural option or it's a interior options, being able to upload your imagery and again, have them select what features they would like to have in their home. For builders that want a little more detail, we do offer what's called our selection wizard. What's very unique about this is you get to completely customize how you present this community to the prospective buyers. Different communities may have a different thought process in how you engage your prospects. Some communities that are more spec driven, you're not going to have all those options. Other communities that have a lot of options, you may sell those options by packages. In a different community, you may sell it by room. In a different community, you may sell it by option. So you get to create a unique user experience for each community if you need to. In this case, I'm engaging my prospect by option. I am now on what's called interior finishes. So interior finishes, I'm now going to walk through the selection process. So I'm looking at towel bar, towel racks, light fixtures, and all of a sudden I get down to cabinets. In cabinets, I can have the ability to go, I want supplier, and then by supplier, what size of cabinets? Because each supplier might have a different size offering. And then those sizes come in what? Different colors, right? And those different colors come with different hardware. So you can tell that we can get down to a really deep level. And why do we want to do this? Because I believe it's truly important that you know the exact model that can fit on that lot, the exact options that are available to sell in that home, and the exact color selection, sizes, and hardware options, or tile size and grout color that are available on that home, on that lot. So that when I get done, I have a lot specific sales contract, a lot specific estimate, and I can create a lot specific set of purchase orders. Why is that important? Because that ensures the best of my ability that I have the best chance of finishing that home on time and keeping my cycle times accurate, and also maintaining my margin. Once a sales contract is completed, we use DocuSign. So there's a full flow and a dashboard embedded in our software that allows you to manage the approval of contracts, the initiation of those contracts, who needs to sign, what documents do they need to sign, and again, to measure where that document is in that signature path. Regardless if you're doing spec homes or you're doing pre-sales, you're going to have an inbox, and that inbox is going to allow you up in the left-hand corner to see what items you need to attend to. And in this case, we had a Pinnacle Pines community. It was a phase 1 of that community, and I have several lots that are being released. If it's a pre-sale, then I'm going to have a customer name. I'm also going to have a contract. On the right-hand side, I'm going to have a selling price. And again, I always get to see, if you want to turn it on, I always get to see all the activities needed to perform and build that home, what trades and suppliers, and their budget. One more time, making sure I have everything in place before I initiate my purchase orders. So now we're going to issue purchase orders. You'll notice that I've not entered anything in these screens. I'm simply clicking on what needs to happen next. So in this particular case, I have several PO groups. So what's a group? Well, again, in today's environment, I may want to group all of my vertical lumber, right, my vertical framing material into group 2, because I might want to send it out one more time for pricing adjustments so that I'm not forced later to do a bunch of variance purchase orders, right? So this allows me some flexibility to group how I initiate purchase orders and communication out to the field and subsequently out on the Hyphen network. You would also in here pick what scheduling template you would like to attach this particular home to. And of course, we print out purchase orders, but most of the time this is delivered electronically. So just to recap, we determined what plans we were going to build, why we were going to build them. We determined our cost, and we did an estimate to come up with those accurate bill of materials to get accurate costs. We figured out our sales price. We had either initiated a project to start or we sold a home. And so now we've issued purchase orders, we've issued budgets, and we've issued a full schedule out to the field automatically. So everything has happened just by me clicking and initiating the next process. And that next process is scheduling. And I'm not going to dive down into the details today of scheduling because the focus today is really on estimating and doing takeoffs. But once that home has been initiated and we've picked a template, it creates a schedule. But more importantly, we're not talking about trade portals. We're talking about the Hyphen network. So now my suppliers, manufacturers, trades, even the customer have all been communicated with about the start of that home, what items need to be delivered to that home, what color selections have been picked. My trades and suppliers are going to be able to communicate. Can I get that equipment out there? Can I get that crew out there? And now my superintendent, either using the web-based app or downloading a mobile app, will be able to walk the home. And I know it's a little bit small, but this second to last circle, they'll be able to inspect the work, complete the work, And if they complete the work out in the field and the workers' comp date, the general liability date, and we have a signed lien waiver are all in tolerance, then it will complete that PO for payment, turn it into an invoice number, and go ahead and tell accounting that they can pay that invoice. So it's a full round circle. At this time, I'm going to stop my presentation and I'm going to turn it over to Daryl Schinner. And Daryl's going to jump into a little more detail and really focus on the importance of doing estimating and takeoffs. So Daryl, do you want to take it from here?
You able to see my screen with the wheels?
We can, Daryl.
Okay, fantastic. So I'm going to touch a little bit on the estimating component of that. As Ward mentioned, when we define our floor plans, elevations, options, and so on, how do we get those items in there in the first place? Many times people do want to be able to produce an estimate for a particular floor plan, and they have information that they want to get from the plans themselves so that they can use that for the purpose of populating whatever items are needed. So oftentimes people will use some type of on-screen takeoff tool. PlanSwift is one of the products that we do integrate with, where you can put in your plans, and within there you can start to track all the different types of measurements that you want to be able to make and utilize for estimating purposes. So for example, we may want to be able to trace out the full main floor area. And within that, when we do a takeoff or a measurement, oftentimes we're able to calculate both the square footage of the area, but also the perimeter as well, because we may want to utilize both values for different purposes. If we're doing our baseboard and trim materials and so on, we're going to rely on perimeter values as opposed to, say, flooring, where we're looking at the square footages, that sort of thing. So being able to utilize that sort of tool becomes a useful mechanism. And within the software itself, we do allow you to build what we call smart assemblies. So I've got a couple examples here where I've got an assembly that's used for the purposes of calculating what we need for items, where it's going to utilize formulas that we can create that help us populate that. So for example, if I was to build a new floor plan and I have a number of items that I need to be able to populate, I can do an assembly takeoff where I'm going to go through and retrieve information, and based on that, it's going to require some inputs. It wants to know the main floor area, basement, garage, all that sort of thing. And then there's a project that I can reference up here, which I'm going to do. So I'm going to pull up this 1830A plan, and it's going through and it's reading the drawing and pulling all of the dimensions from there. So in this case, it's populating the square footage for the main floor area, the garage, the basement, if there is any. Main floor perimeter values, if there's any floor tile square footage calculations, all of those values are being retrieved from the drawing itself so that we can go through and utilize that. There may be other inputs that we maybe want to be able to supply as well. So maybe we need to calculate, height of wall, type of insulation, all that sort of thing. And then we can go through and have it calculate what we need for items, quantities, and then what items themselves, and be able to populate that within the estimate itself. So we can populate all that information in there quite quickly. As well, some of the takeoff tools, PlanSwift being one of them, has the ability to do estimating within itself, where you can have takeoff assemblies and parts and whatnot within the software. And if that feature is being utilized within there, we can pull the quantities and their items from PlanSwift directly, where we can see what do we have for items calculated, and we can go through and do an exterior wall takeoff or drywall or what have you. So there's a variety of different ways that we can populate those items and their quantities for a given plan. So it's a very useful tool in that regard. In addition to that, we do allow you to import from Excel spreadsheets directly. Sometimes people will utilize a CAD program that can output a bill of quantities. We can take that information as well and use that as a means of loading that information in there. So you're not reliant solely on what you can do within HomeFront. We do know that people have other takeoff tools that they'd like to be able to utilize, and we want you to be able to utilize that as well. So I've got a number of different plans that have already been defined, and I wanted to kind of show you what the process looks like when we go through from sale all the way through to the end. And you'll notice when we're building our what we refer to as assemblies in here, we can designate whether an assembly should be used as is, meaning we'll do the takeoff once and we want to use those quantities each time we build that particular plan. Or maybe you're the type of builder who makes alterations almost every time, and what you're putting in here is really just a base model, but you want to be able to do a new takeoff each and every time you sell it. And what that allows you to do is have the sales system, be able to designate this plan has a selling price of X dollars, but when it comes time to do the construction of it or the estimating, we want to do a new takeoff because maybe square footages have changed slightly or what have you. So we can designate, we want to do a fresh takeoff on each sale, and we don't want to rely on those previously taken off quantities if we don't build it in that manner. So in this particular instance, I'm going to take you through a workflow of sale through to basically the end of the process, so you can get a sense of how all the different elements fit together. So over in our sales area is where we start to capture our contacts. As contacts become more interested, they become an opportunity, and those opportunities can consist of multiple individuals. One might be a primary buyer, might be a secondary co-buyer, maybe there's a realtor involved in the mix as well. All that information can be documented and captured within here. And when someone's at a point where they're interested enough to get a quote from you, you can put together as many quotes as you want. And there's two styles. If you have spec inventory that you want to be able to sell, you can build a quote based upon that inventory, or if you're pre-selling your homes, you can choose that route as well. So in this example, I've gone the route of a pre-sale scenario, and in this particular community, there's a number of lots that are available. The different colors represent the different statuses. So the ones in green are the ones that are still available for selection. And I'm going to go ahead and choose lot 933 in this example. And if there was a lot premium, which there isn't in this one, it would be visible here. And I'm just going to pull that. And there's a description. And within this community and in this lot, there's a number of floor plans that are available. Now, depending on the lot we've chosen, might impact what floor plans we can choose from. In this case, there's two possible plans that I can select. And you can put an image gallery in here if you want to be able to showcase some of the imagery, or maybe even the plan itself, the layout. You can do all of that. And when they ultimately choose a particular home that they want to proceed with, they would go ahead and select that. And that would kind of set the tone for what happens moving forward. So because it's just a quote, this quote's good for a certain number of days. By default, I've got mine set to get 10 days. And within here, we can start to add additional information. So if part of this initial quote, we want to add extra options, we can do that. We can add options to our list. We can add custom options if you have a need to be able to input additional information that relates to something that's not in your standard option catalog. You can submit that as a price request if need be. And in addition to being able to add from your list of options, you can also build what we call a selection wizard. This is a powerful tool in that you create this yourself, in a sense, where you define the conversation, the talking points that you want to have with the prospective buyer. And maybe you want to showcase maybe what are the available elevation choices that for this particular plan. This one has two possible elevations they can choose from, and it restricts them to choosing just one of the two, not both. In other instances, or maybe we want to be able to choose multiple options. Maybe we want to go with that elevation and these two structural. Maybe you want to start reviewing exterior color choices and all that sort of thing. Depending on how your sales model works, you maybe have a design center person who they meet with after the contract is created, or maybe that's one salesperson that manages them from the beginning to the very end. It's kind of up to you. However you want to design that, that's your decision. Many times people want to be able to talk, what do they want to offer for flooring choices? Do they want to upgrade from tile to hardwood? And what rooms is that possible to be done in? All of that is able to be managed within the system as well. Maybe we want to do that in particular rooms, and based on the option that we've chosen, it may also come in different colors as well. So all that information can be captured within here, and it's all going to be communicated downstream to the ultimate supplier and the trade that are going to be doing the work as well at some point. So as we're going through that whole exercise of selecting options and things of that nature, it's building up what we call our addendum, which itemizes all the selections that they're adding that are going to form part of the initial purchase price. That's all listed here. And in addition to that, I can also do I can do a keyword search if I'm looking for anything that has the term fireplace in there. So maybe I want to add that fireplace in the living room, so I can designate what room it's going to be put in. Maybe they want to add the fan and the thermostat as well. So they can add all of those items into the job as well. The reports and the forms that you produce are all customizable and branded to your own company. So if you want to be able to give a single page summary of the selections that have been made to this point, you can do so. This is just an example of one. And it also is showing the room locations and color selections if they're applicable. All of that stuff is visible here as well. And in addition to capturing this type of information, you can capture deposit details if you have any contingency type items or conditional information. Maybe the sale is conditional upon obtaining financing, or the sale of their current property. Whatever the case may be, you can track all of those items as well. And then when it comes time to produce the contract document itself, the purchase agreement, you can have additional fields of information that are important to you for the purpose of the contract that maybe need to be included in there. You can create your own fields that you want to be able to include in those forms. And then when you print the document, we'll pre-fill all the relevant information into the contract form itself. And you can add additional documents and create a contract package, if you will. So in this example, we're pre-filling the relevant information, the buyer's name, the lot, the model name, the sale price, all of that, because many of our clients do use DocuSign. They don't want to rely on anybody manually inputting anything. They want to have a place where all that information is stored within the system, so that when we do want to send it to be signed digitally, we can hit the send to be signed. It'll go through and retrieve who's being identified within the system that needs to sign somewhere in the purchase agreement. This one lists both buyers, the seller and the selling agent. And when they submit that, it goes straight through to DocuSign directly. And rather than having to go into DocuSign and monitor that, you can monitor its activity right from within here as well. We're polling the DocuSign system each time, so we can see where it's currently at in the signing process, who's currently got it, where is it at, and then when it's done, we can see the status will change to completed, and we can also open up that document at any time as well. So you can, of course, do that within DocuSign as well, but just preventing you from having to log in there is the only means you can do it from here as well. And typically what happens is a sales agent would go through and get this under contract, and they would submit it to the sales manager to review. They would move from a proposal to a pending sale. The sales manager would then get their notification saying that there's something for them to review. They'll log in, and with their permissions, they'll have extra capabilities that the sales agent doesn't have. I logged in as an individual who has access to everything, but oftentimes before a sales manager ratifies or approves a contract, they want to run a review where they can go through and start to look at a margin analysis prior to accepting this contract. So this is a pre-contract margin analysis report where we can see, what do we sell the base model home at? What's our expected cost going to be? What do we anticipate the profit to be for the base model, plus any of those extra options that we've added? And then kind of a recap for the overall contract itself, giving them an opportunity to review this in a more granular manner if they need to, but then also be able to see it in a summary form as well. So pretty useful information for them as well. And if everything kind of checked out as they're expecting, they would be the ones to go ahead and say, let's go ahead and proceed. We're going to convert this to a contract. And at the time when that happens, that's basically the indication that we've got a new job start. So that information that is being captured from sales is going to affect what flows over into the estimating and purchasing side of the system as well. So Over on the estimating area, we're going to see right now my inbox is empty. That's going to change here momentarily, where it's going to show me what information has been sent over from sales that have not yet been worked on from an estimating perspective. So I'll just give that a second here to arrive. There we go. So now in my inbox, I got 9 items. Now those are individual items. So in this particular lot, we see that we got the base model, plus we added a bunch of extra options, which adds up to a total of 9. We do also manage whether you want to have reverse plans or inverted plans. We'll talk, it's going to be a little beyond the scope of today's call, but we do allow you to designate whether you want to have a right-hand base and then a left-hand swing for a particular instance. You can do all that. When I select the job I want to work on, it goes through and retrieves all of the details that it can find. So we know the community, and within that community, we know who our preferred trades are. And on the initial contract, it consisted of all of this, the base model being one of those things. And for the initial budget for the base model itself, this is what we've retrieved. So we'll just free up some more screen space here so you can see this. So I've isolated just the base model, and it's broken down all of its costs that we've identified. And it's retrieved the trades and their pricing. In essence, we've got our initial estimate already defined. And I can review the costs associated to adding the elevation G, the fireplace, whatever it is that I want, or I can look at the whole thing in its entirety all on one screen as well. So very easy to navigate and very easy to find things. And once everything checks out the way you're expecting it to, we could go ahead and we can lock in those numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and generate this estimate. And in doing so, it locks in those numbers, and it also says, now you got a budget, you could send it to your accounting system. So we could go ahead and we could post that budget now. I can also take it a step further, and I can say, you know what, not only do I want to say I'm done the estimate, I want to treat this as a final budget as far as the initial contract is concerned. Any change orders that come in after the fact would, of course, be treated as a change. But as far as the initial contract is concerned, I finalized it. And this has an impact, which you'll see here momentarily, in that from the time that we create the budget, if I'm ready to start issuing purchase orders, which I'm going to do, when I look at the job from that perspective, I'm starting to see the job now into how do I want to issue my POs? Do I want to group them and issue them in a release? Maybe I want one group of purchase orders to be generated at one time. I can do that in a group if I choose to, and you can group them any way you want. And if I wanted to look at an individual scope of work, let's say excavation, for example, maybe in this instance, from the time that we've created the estimate to the time we're ready to issue POs, some time goes by. It's not done maybe instantaneously like we're doing now, but let's say we did a site walk and we realized the amount of fill that we estimated, $1,500, that's not going to cover it for this particular lot. Maybe we need some additional fill. So let's say we need to increase this to $2,200. I'm just going to change that price. And because I'm making a change to what was originally estimated, it's prompting me for an explanation or a reason. You can create your list of variance reasons and choose from those lists so that I can say, due to site conditions, I had to increase what I'm going to issue my PO to from one number to 2,200. And this becomes important when we start looking at reporting later on. And in addition to that, for each job that we're talking about, we do also want to communicate this information over to the scheduling side as well. And within the scheduling system, you can create various scheduling templates, and each plan can have a template identified to say this plan should use this schedule template. And then I have to provide when do I anticipate the start being required. So let's say, for example, we want to start this thing on January 31st is when we're going to start. When I do that, and when I go through and I want to release those first block of purchase orders, it's going to do a number of things. It's going to first check to see whose insurance is expired, if anybody, and gives me an opportunity to correct it. So I'm just going to look for any instances of where maybe I'm over budget. I'm just going to warn you to let you know maybe it's glaringly obviously wrong and you want to correct it. If not, you can go ahead and proceed. And as we're creating those purchase orders, we're also communicating this to the scheduling system as well. So because this is a brand new job, it's actually creating the schedule over in our scheduling side, so that when we're raising the purchase orders, we want that information to flow automatically as well. And at the same time, we're also making it available so that accounting can see this also. So just as a recap, I've gone through from sales all the way through to issuing the budget, the purchase orders. Accounting is able to receive that. And then we're also available, now we're communicating this over to scheduling. So if I was to look at my list of active jobs in my demo data, it's organized by community. And if I scroll down to Isles of Collier Preserve, lot 933 was the one that we just created here. So you'll notice that one there, and I put January 31st as my start date. And there's various views that you can have of an individual schedule. I'm just going to look at one of many. This is our job management express view. So this is what your construction managers or site superintendents will be seeing. And in this particular lot, it's organized my schedule into different stages. And within each stage, I got different tasks that I'm performing, some of which would be self-supplied, others would be performed by a trade or a supplier. And if we've issued purchase orders, which we've done a few, they're going to be listed here. So you're going to see that we have a purchase order. This is the purchase order number. That's the trade that we issued the PO to. You'll notice up top, there's all of the options and any job documents. All of that's able to be managed within here as well. So when we sent over our option detail on those purchase orders, it shows we added the hardwood from tile to hardwood. We added it in the living room, 500 square feet of gray tone birch. So all of those details are listed there. So the trades and suppliers are able to see them. But ultimately, what your site superintendents are going to be doing is they're going to be going through and they're going to be starting tasks and so on. So when a task gets started, it communicates that to the trades as well. And the trades have the ability to review all of their information. They've got a, as part of the Supply Pro network, they have visibility into what's being assigned to them. You can see where it's currently at. Right now, we've submitted this to the trade. It also gives us a visual indicator that the task is in progress. And at some point in time, the work gets completed. And at the time that the work is completed, really all we're doing is say that the work is done. And when we update those tasks saying that the work is done, we're also communicating this back over to HomeFront as well. So what happens is when a task is done, it drops off the schedule by default. You can change your list if you want to see all activities or just the ones that are not complete. You can have that visible like I do here. And in the background, what takes place is those two tasks that we just completed, that sent information back over to HomeFront because accounting needs to know that those purchase orders were completed or at least indicated as being done. And that has an effect of being able to say this particular, in the accounts payable side of HomeFront, we now can have visibility into what invoices have been approved on site by the guys on site. So in this case, you'll notice that we've got two site approved purchase orders that we just approved over in BillPro. So the accounts payable invoice in essence is the purchase order value, and the PO number becomes the invoice, and we can go ahead and post that information over to accounting. So there's virtually no data entry required when it comes to approving a task that's related to a purchase order. And in addition to that, if I was to look at this job and run a report from that, which I'm going to do, you're going to see this particular job now has a report broken down by cost code, which shows us our original estimate. If there was any change orders, they'd be listed here. And then of the total estimate, how much have we issued in purchase orders? And if we've exceeded the budget on an area, it highlights it. And if we've allocated that reason to a variance code, we can drill down on that and say see what the variance code reason is as well. So all of that information is listed here. And then as the costs are being incurred, we can see that our actual costs to date are starting to accumulate, and how much of our budget is remaining, and so on and so forth. So a lot of really good information that starts to be gathered in the system that way. And that's kind of the round trip that I wanted to kind of show everybody. Board, is there anything that we wanted to elaborate on, or?
No, I think that's good, Daryl. And just want to say thank you for everybody attending today and taking your time. We're now going to take a few minutes and open it up for questions. So if you have questions, you can submit those in the chat bar on the GoToMeeting ear, and submit those, and Tyler will read those off. We'll be happy to answer them. So we'll give you a minute to fill out those questions. And Tyler, let me know if there's some questions.
Yes, we already have a couple. I currently use both HomeFront and PlanSwift. How do I integrate them so that I can pull takeoffs from PlanSwift? Can I do that at the job level, or is it only available at the models and options level?
You can do it at the job level. So when we're working on a job, the PlanSwift Takeoff button is available in both areas. So you can do that on a per job basis or at the plan level. It's up to you.
We also got a question about the recording being emailed to you. Yes, the recording will be automatically emailed to everyone who registered for the webinar. So you guys should get that about 24 hours after the webinar ends. What is the cost of this software?
Sure, Tyler, I'll take that one. So the way that we deploy the investment on HomeFront and Hyphen products is a subscription. And roughly it's based on the number of homes a builder builds within an annual year. And there's a couple different ways to do that and deploy that. But I think if you think of a budget of $380, $390 per job start, that would get you the full product, including the scheduling, the Hyphen Build Pro, Supply Pro connection. There's also implementation with that, and we would need to do a scope of work to understand, what type of plans, what type of details, what data can we harvest, and so forth, to put together a good statement of work on the implementation. But that will give a good overview budget. That 380 per start is pretty good budget.
How do you integrate PlanSwift in?
How do we integrate PlanSwift in? A couple different ways. So, for example, if I was to go into one of my assemblies that has formulas. So when I look at this particular formula, so this is an input that's saying I need to know the main floor area. So when I'm defining, we call those variables. So if I want to be able to say my main floor area is something that I'm going to input, when I edit that, I can link it to what we refer to as a condition. That's a value that we have in PlanSwift that we are measuring. So if you recall, I was calculating my main floor area, and I've got an item referred to as that within PlanSwift itself. So over in HomeFront, I went through and I mapped it and said, we've got a value in PlanSwift, and it's that particular item that I want to associate this. So I'm going to pull, when I do a retrieval out of a particular drawing, I'm going to get that particular value. So I'm mapping my variable to something that exists over in PlanSwift, so that when I do the actual takeoff, it's pulling that particular value and populating it for me. And then the items themselves are something that you can do within PlanSwift. You can map their PlanSwift item to a HomeFront item if you need to, or you can just use it as is, as a one-time item as well.
Great. Does Precision work with Bluebeam versus PlanSwift?
Not currently. We have the desire to kind of extend the reach into other systems. We do currently integrate with Sage's Takeoff, as well as on-center's on-screen takeoff.
Perfect. Well, that's all the questions that we have from the group.
Okay. Well, again, thank you from Hyphen. We appreciate your time, and we'll be following up accordingly to those who desire some more information from us. Thank you again. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Appreciate it. Thank you.